to check, yeah.
Okay, we should be yep, we are recording.
Okay. I'll read the opening statement. Public hearing will be conducted pursuant to the board's rules of procedure as adopted May 26, 1988. We will first hear the report of the planning director on the detailed information and observations regarding the request, if not done so in written form prior to the meeting. Next, we will take testimony of the applicant and his or her witnesses. Upon completion of the applicant's testimony, I'll call upon members of the audience wishing to make a statement concerning the request. Persons in favor of the request shall be heard first, followed by those who oppose it. At any time during the presentation of testimony, the members of the board may interrupt to ask questions or make comments on what has been said. Upon completion of all testimony, the applicant will be allowed to make a closing statement to the board. Upon completion of the applicant's closing statement, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the request. After the public hearing has been closed, we will then hear the recommendation, if any, of the planning director, and upon completion of all discussion, I will entertain a motion from the members of the board regarding the disposition of the application. Each speaker addressing this board shall step forward to the podium and state their name and address before proceeding with their testimony or evidence. I would ask that you spell your last name. This board shall not be bound by strict rules of evidence, but does reserve the right to exclude evidence or testimony that it may deem to be irrelevant, immaterial, incompetent, or unduly repetitious. As chairman, I will rule on all questions relating to the admissibility of evidence, which may be overruled by the majority of the board. The board may grant continuances in a case for good cause shown to any interested party who has entered his appearance. The board may, at any time, request a continuance of the hearing for the purpose of giving further notice, taking further evidence, gathering further information, touring the proposed site, or for other such reason the board may find sufficient. In such case, we will state the specific reasons for the continuance and set a date, time, and place when the matter will be continued. All official action of this board shall be made at public hearing by motion made, seconded, and appointed of the membership. If conditions are imposed, such conditions shall be included in the motion or amended hereto. Our final decision will be prepared in writing and will be part of the public record of this board. Once this board has reached a decision on a case, that decision shall be final. Section 335.18 of the Code of Iowa states, any person or persons jointly or severally aggravated by the decision of the Board of Adjustment under the provisions of Chapter 335, or any taxpayer or any officer, department, board, or bureau of the county may present to the Court of Record a petition duly verified setting forth that such decision was illegal in whole or in part, specifying the grounds of the legality. Such petition shall be presented to the court within 30 days after the filing of the decision of the office of the board. Upon hearing that, I would ask for a motion to open the case.
I'll make a motion to open public hearing case number CU 2021-02.
Second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carried. Public hearing is now open. I would ask that Patricia Brucing or Jeff O come up and give the opening statement.
Okay.
Thanks for having us. Jeff Deal, D-E-O-L-D. Address is 1717 Vincent Street, Omaha, Nebraska, 68108. And I'm the applicant's representative and architect for the project. And I'll run through sort of the physical aspects of the improvements that we're going to make to the barn and the property. And I'll let Patricia go through the actual use of the what's classified as a private school in this setting,
Okay.
to give you some context on what will be happening there. So we're essentially requesting a conditional use permit for what's essentially a learning kitchen that will go into a renovation of an existing wood barn on the property. The barn is 2 levels. It's got a first level that will actually have the scope of the renovation, and then a second level that will just remain unoccupied or unused in this case. The footprint's about 40 foot by 60 foot, and the barn itself sits about 180 feet from Monument Road off of a private access road that runs through the property. The site improvements that we plan to make to support the project would be adding 7 new parking stalls off of that private access road that we've worked to accommodate what we anticipate the actual use to be. And then in addition to that, there'll be an improved footpath from those parking stalls to the south entrance of the barn to provide accessibility to the project. And we're adding a new septic system to support the project also. That septic system, we're oversizing, we're sizing it for an occupant load of about, I think, 86 people, which we're not anticipating to cover this particular use, but just to future-proof the work that we're doing now. The renovation to the barn itself, which is a wood frame barn, we're replacing most of the interior wood structure with new wood columns, wood floor joists, and new footings on the inside to stabilize the barn and just support what we anticipate to do. And then the existing exterior wood siding will be repaired and replaced as needed and painted to gussy it up a little bit. And we're going to be replacing the existing corrugated metal roof with a new corrugated metal roof. And then new doors and windows that don't exist today to let natural light into the building. The building is going to be served by all new utilities, new gas service to the building, new electrical service, and new water service to support the needs of the learning kitchen. And then the actual renovation itself that will be on the first floor of the barn to support the kitchen will be essentially a kitchen island in the middle of an open space that will have space for stools for the children to watch the instructor, conduct the education programs, and then that will be supported by a series of enclosed rooms, some code-required bathrooms, back of house prep space, back of house dry storage space, some storage rooms, and a utility closet. And that's essentially the physical work that we're doing, and I'll let Patty explain the actual education program that she anticipates.
Okay. Thank you.
And I can answer any questions that you have afterwards.
Okay.
Thanks, Jeff. So I think you have a list of things that the building was going to be used for. An interesting thing was I had some neighbors come up and talk to me about the private school. This is hardly, but I think maybe that's how it has to be presented to you. Really, my dream is to have an educational center for children to come out and learn how to grow vegetables, learn how to prepare them, and then eat what they prepare. I want to start with about 5 children and see how it goes. This is a dream that I've had for a long time, to do something with kids. I'm an educator. I have 2 daughters who are educators who will help me with the curriculum. So it would just mean they would come out, depending upon the program that's set up. I've gone to the Boys and Girls Club, and of course there's some issues with transportation and how many people we're going to have to take care of those kids. But so for the neighbors, I think private school is an interesting thing, but it's an educational center. I don't perceive that there'll be any cars parked on the road. There won't be parties. So that's it. That's the dream.
For the record, could you state your name? And
I'm sorry.
That's all right. I just make sure it's
I
on-
was a teacher. Patricia Barusing, and it's Birusingh, and it's 20525 Monument Road, and the address is Crescent, 51526.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so this time, we'd ask if anyone who wants to speak in favor come up to the podium. No one. And this time, we'll ask for anybody who wants to speak who is opposed to come to the podium. Okay.
Philip Oliver, I'm a resident. It'd be to the, would it be the west of her property? And, what's that?
Your address.
Oh, it's 20773 Hillsborough Lane South. And I just have some concerns about this being zoned as a private school, not putting all the neighboring lands within 1,000 feet of that property under federal guidelines of being in a gun-free zone.
Being the what, did you say?
It'd be anything within 1,000 feet of a private school, public school, or anything zoned like that would be under federal guidelines within 1,000 feet, a gun-free zone. So, and I'm pretty sure the law states that you can have firearms on your own private property within that 1,000 feet of the gun-free zone, but I do not know about firing any of them. We're in a rural area. Everyone surrounding that property fires firearms.
Do you know how close your house is to the school, I guess? I mean, does that relate to you?
But would that whole property be considered,
Yeah.
the whole 152 acres or whatever, would that be considered the school zone?
It's the use of the building.
Or would it be just the use?
Just discussing the use of the building.
So it'd be within 1,000 feet of the building?
I would say that we've never had that, we've utilized this private school curriculum before. We actually have one individual who has a private school in operation, and it is a firearm training facility. And so, I think what you have to have is a designated school zone for what you're talking about. In that federal law, this is not a designated school zone. This is a conditional use of a property. So I think there are two different pieces that you're looking at. To where if you come to a public school here in the city of Council Bluffs, they have gone to the trouble of designating that as a school zone. The traffic around it is regulated in that fashion. Firearms are regulated in that fashion. Drugs are regulated in that fashion. What you have here on the rural side of this is separate from that. This is just a conditional use of a building, to where we have these private schools out there that, in order for some people to do the things that they want to do, like the gentleman who wanted to do the firearms training, we have another one that was a fitness center at one time. And in order to make the opportunities possible for these individuals, if they go through the process of issuing a certificate, coming up with a curriculum and things like that, then they can work underneath of this classification. But I think the federal law of what you're talking about is an actual designation that is sought out and approved through your local government on up to obtain that portion.
Okay, because that's where I was confused on, that was how vague the federal law was on what they considered a public school, private school,
Yeah.
down the line.
I can understand that. 'Cause
Yeah.
there's a lot of people in the county that are shooting firearms all the time.
Yeah, and, I just would hate to see anyone surrounding that property, all of a sudden, then they fire off a shot or whatever, then next thing you know, then they got a felony charge for firing off a shot within 1,000 feet of a school zone. Which, if that building isn't, somehow, has its own designated area for the school zone, then would that whole 150 some acres be considered school property?
I think it's just a difference in conditional use versus an actual designation. This is just a conditional use, this is not a designation through that federal law program. So the traffic around it, you're not gonna see signs pop up all of a sudden saying school zone, the drugs, you're not gonna see those things happen, because this is just for this portion of her use.
Now, is she trying to achieve anything like that, or is it just a conditional use?
It would have to run through the board of supervisors at that time. And I think, kind of as you're explaining, if you can imagine, not, everybody being notified that they can no longer shoot firearms in their property, the amount of people we would have in here, I don't think that would be something that you're gonna see come through the board of supervisors very easily.
Okay. All right, well, thank you.
Anybody else who'd like to speak opposed? State your name and spell your last name.
Samantha, Wells, Wells. I'm neighbors with Phil and them, so we are on the corner of Monument and Hillsborough Lane South, and that we literally see the side of Patty's property across the street from us. The concerns that I have, and I just want to make sure, and you cleared some stuff up for me while I was back there. There's no way possible that, being that this is more of an educational program, no taxes are gonna go up. We're not gonna have any issues of anything like that.
That runs through a separate group of individuals from the county assessor's office. Even though they call it the county assessor's office, but they're not formally a part of the county. So people get that misconstrued when we issue a building permit from the planning department. And then they're like, well, my taxes are gonna go up. We just issue, our zoning doesn't have anything to do with taxes. And so that all comes through what the assessor will come out and assess the property at a later time.
So just for my knowledge base, if it goes through, and I'm sure other neighbors that are here that might have a, concern regarding that, so if it goes approved, then what do we do as in, do we go to that, is it a hearing? I guess I want to ask you're saying assessor will come out and that automatically will just jump up our taxes, or?
No. The assessors come out and they've been to my house every year since I moved out into the county.
Right, yes.
And have reviewed my property. And then they mail you a statement that says,
Right.
What your valuation is gonna be. You can take that valuation and then file, I don't know the exact process because I've never contested my taxes, but you can file a letter back, and then they schedule you for a hearing to come in and speak to
Okay.
them.
Okay, so yeah, thank you for that. And then the other concern I have is the traffic. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because both me and my husband, we have had a lot of hardship, if you will. This past year and a half, I have been dealing with the county sheriffs. I've even talked to roads. I've been trying to get things figured out, the excessive speeding that we are experiencing, not only on our street, Hillsborough Lane South, but also on Monument Road. So with the idea and her projection of 70 stalls being put in, to me, I'm just worried that that's gonna, how many?
7,
There was not a zero involved in that?
no.
Oh, my. Okay, well, 7, but either way, that's still more, right? Wow, I don't know where I got that extra zero. I'm so sorry. But I'm just worried about it causing any more additional traffic. Because I know it's gonna be more of an experiment at first, and then it very well could grow into something bigger, right? And I'm just worried too about the traffic, and if we're gonna have to deal with any speeding issues. I was gonna pull off all the calls I've made and do all this, but I just wanted to ask the question if that was gonna be an issue as well.
I know it's something that's come up on numerous roads throughout the county, kind of the excessive speeding and more traffic enforcement and things. And we do work with the county engineer on different roads that we get complaints on, and we'll come together and we'll go to the board of supervisors along with the sheriff's department. And so if you are experiencing those, I would continue to make those phone calls, because
Right.
they do take those into consideration. I know the traffic study is getting ready to be conducted again this year, if it's not yet already underway. What that does is that gives a traffic count for every road on Pottawattamie County. And that plays a big part into what roads get upgraded, what roads maybe, you know, the supervisors realize the importance of keeping a seal coat. They'll do reduced traffic, you know, speed limits based on, they'll take a review on the number of drives on a road. You know, is it appropriate to have a 55-mile-an-hour speed limit if you have 20 drives in a half mile versus potentially a 45-mile-an-hour speed limit? You know, that's when all of those calculations start to happen, so.
Okay. And then kind of finalize just his concerns and our concerns put together. Is there anything, like, if this goes through, is there anything that we can get, like, in writing, being the, you know, neighbors of her property, saying that we're not gonna, you know, for people who have permits, carrying conceal guns and, you know, especially on the weekends, mind you, that's where she's wanting to hold a lot of her classes, and obviously that's her leisure time. So, you know, if we just don't want 5 months to go down and then all of a sudden we go shoot our gun and then we get the sheriff called on us and we're like, we were told it was okay. Are we going to get anything in writing as neighboring land that can say, hey, it's okay, it's just a program, you know?
I think Matt's looking.
You're good, you're good. I made the mistake saying 70, so it's all right. Don't even know where I got that number.
How close are you to her property?
Sure,
20, we're like 20 feet away from her property line.
From her house?
Yeah,
From her
no,
barn?
from her barn, I believe that we would be more considered within that 1,000-foot range.
When you shoot, do you shoot at? I mean, are we shooting that direction?
Oh, no, we shoot the opposite way. It's like a bank, if you will, where we have like protected stuff where we shoot into. But still, I mean, doesn't matter if you're shooting that way or that way. Our concern was just, you know, with kids being around, you know, we just don't know where that was gonna lead to, so that was our concern. You know what I mean? So our house is right on the corner of Monument Road and Hillsborough Lane South. I would say we're maybe I don't know all these, maybe 200 yards away from the barn. Maybe a little bit more, give or take.
On the other side of the road, right?
Yeah, I don't know, Patty,
Down by
what
the
would you
railroad
say our
tracks
house
on
is from your barn?
It's probably,
Maybe a city block, maybe?
yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe a
See it on here?
Approximately.
yeah,
Maybe a city block,
yeah.
2 city blocks.
Can you see it on here?
Can you see their house?
And while you're looking, if you don't mind, I do have another question that just popped in my head. Any type of hunting or anything like that, would that be an issue
This is,
between, because like, there's obviously some properties that butt up against Patty's throughout the whole entire, you know, square area there. They utilize their land for hunting, you know, their own land or whomever. You know, is that gonna be an issue? I mean, me
I
personally.
don't see how it can change anything on your property personally, but I mean, all we're doing is changing conditional use on that property, I mean, if it
Right.
goes. So I don't know how that could possibly, I think, I'm kind of with Matt, where it would have to be another step, I would think.
For like the hunting part? Which
The
part?
hunting part of it's gonna be from the Iowa DNR.
Yeah, your
I mean,
hunting part's gonna be with, I think, 600 feet from a residence, I believe.
Which is there now.
Don't.
And we're gonna be given an outline, right, of what needs to be done outside of this, right? For people who don't do this every day?
No. So I don't think, normally there's nothing to do on your part. Because all she's doing is getting the conditional use to
Right.
kind of redo a barn to teach school, or
Right.
teach classes on farming stuff.
Okay.
So generally, that has nothing to do with.
So really, our concerns isn't the barn, I guess, the barn itself, right? I mean, it's more of the land aspect of it for us.
I think the kids are gonna be educated inside that
Right.
barn. You're not, they're not gonna be running around outside. I don't think their education part, maybe they go look at plants and things outside.
Well, I have a garden, I have a high tunnel. I have a very near the barn. I have a high tunnel and I have a garden, a fenced-in garden. So
Well, I would think.
that's where the
people are gonna
children,
be noticing that there's people over that area, no matter if they're children or if these residents there, not to be shooting over that way. I mean,
Right, I mean, common sense, yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, to one, like, I guess my concern would be like, if she has a mom who brings her kid and they just so happen they don't like guns whatsoever, and then her kid says, oh, we just heard guns going off, right? And it doesn't matter which way it was shooting, it was the fact that the firearm itself was heard in that general area, and then that's all of a sudden where we get, why are you guys shooting guns, but went on a weekend when there's kids and during an educational program happening.
I don't see how this could affect that, but
How big is the property that you live on?
Over 3 acres.
Or-
Over 3 acres.
I mean, if they have those concerns, if everything's according to the law, what they're doing, then the person just needs to be informed of that, and that's all. I would think.
I think they're just concerned that it's going to be considered a school zone, and then
Yeah.
those gun laws may apply.
Right.
Right, it's not what she's wanting to do. I mean, I think it's a great idea. I couldn't come up here and say, oh yeah, and then come back up and say I'm opposed, that, it looked like I have multiple personalities. I think it's a great idea, it's just our concern is regarding the use of our own land and our own,
So,
rights,
I guess
basically.
the way that, and I will tell you that I am not a lawyer by any means, but we have here the federal law, which is the Gun Control Act 1968. And it identifies what the school zone is, and, I mean, you could even cross a school zone with a gun, and as long as it is unloaded and possessed, and then we're talking about the school premise itself, okay? That is unloaded and possessed by an individual while traversing the school premise for the purpose of gaining access to public or private lands open to hunting, if the entry on the school premise is authorized by school authorities. So you haven't even those districts that you would be allowed to cross the school zone ground, with the grounds that the school is actually on, with your weapon to go to a hunting ground that is obviously right next to it, and then you would be shooting right next to that in the hunting ground. So I think maybe the concern that you have might just be, it might just be getting a little bit ahead of you, because I mean, I do believe everything in here it says is that you're on your private property, you have your weapon, you're shooting it. The only thing you can't do is take your weapon to her property, unless you're a licensed gun holder, which it says that in here. If you are licensed by the state or political subdivision to possess a firearm, then you may take your weapon with you.
Okay,
So all of those pieces for somebody who's a law-abiding citizen with their weapon are all right there.
okay.
And I think that pretty much covers kind of the concerns that you would have on that side. You'd still be allowed to go out and do your target shooting, do your hunting on your property. It's just, and I guess we used to run into this in the hunter safety courses. You say you shot a deer goes over into the neighboring property. You have the right to pursue that deer, but you don't necessarily have the right to take your weapon with you to go pursue it unless you get permission from the people.
Okay. All right, and were you looking to see if we were gonna get something in writing about that?
I mean, I can give you the.
Yeah, would you
brochure right
actually?
here. It's from the ATF.
Would you?
Yeah.
Would you mind? Maybe copies, I don't know if you guys want one too. Sure. Okay. That's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else speak opposed?
I want to say something real quick. So I was looking at something while Matt was looking, so it says, under federal law, a school zone is comprised of grounds of or within a public, parochial, or private school. But then it also says the term school itself means a school that provides elementary or secondary education as specified under state law. So, you know, would the state, would what they're doing be defined as a school under the state law? I'm not an attorney either, so. And then it says, although it could differ under state law, generally speaking, an elementary school means any combination of kindergarten and grades 1 through 8. And secondary school means a high school. High school is a school with any combination of grades 9 through 12. You know, so she's not having, you know, 1 through 8.
I don't want.
Grades 1 through 8,
I don't want.
you know, and a curriculum for them. It
Everything
could be
for a
various
school.
ages. I mean, I don't know. I don't know the definition of a school, so, but it just seems like, based on what I'm reading, it wouldn't be considered a definition of a school by the state. Therefore, those laws wouldn't be applicable as far as carrying and firing, but maybe we could get some clarification from our county attorney, but.
State your name.
I'm Priscilla Oliver. I live at 20773 Hillsborough Lane South. Philip's my husband. So my concern is our land is basically, we share a property line with why she says she's having classes up at the barn. We all know that kids can wander off, get lost. I mean, they have a kid over in La Vista they haven't found for over a week. The other concern I have is we are on the EMS service. If one of those kids would get hurt, it is Crescent Volunteer Fire Department. We also have the railroad tracks right there. I don't know how many times we have sat at the railroad track for 20 minutes while a train just sits there and doesn't move by UP. That would mean they would have to go the long way around Old Lincoln Highway up and over Monument Road. One of the other concerns with the amount of traffic too, just driving over here on Monument Road, someone cut off a dump truck and they were on the side of the road. So Monument Road, people drive crazy, as Sam said. And I guess I just have concerns since there is no fence between our property line. If a child would, there's no fence around the barn. If they would happen to wander off, they might wander onto my property. And if they would get hurt on my property, then I could be financially responsible for whatever would happen to them.
Isn't there a huge ravine in there though, between your property and theirs?
Right, but you can climb up and down the ravine. I mean, there's paths back there. We've had people climb up and down the ravine. I've seen people climb up and down the ravine.
I guess that would be something I guess we could take into account to put that in the stipulations. And I'm assuming that would have to be, you know, some sort of like a liability waiver that they would have to, you know, to have people out, they would have to have some sort of, you know, blanket policy themselves. I'm sure that
Right.
would cover that. That could be something we could put in the,
Right. I just want to make sure I wouldn't be financially responsible if someone wandered onto my land. Even if they came and parked, someone could wander off, right? I don't want to have to be financially responsible for them getting hurt.
It could happen now, I mean, even though
Right.
school, so maybe
Right.
that's-
It could happen now, but that's what I'm saying is now we have a chance of more times of that happening because she's bringing potential outside people in to her, on her property that they might be wandering around. That's all one of my concerns I have.
Okay.
I do like the idea of it. I just want to make sure that I am protected and I'm not financially responsible.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak opposing?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
balance of your land used for? You said you 150 acres.
It's all timber.
It's all timber?
Right. Yeah, it's timber.
Is it fenced?
Pardon me?
Is your land fenced boundary wise?
Some of it's fenced in. When we had horses 100 years ago, it was fenced in, but no, I don't think it's all fenced in. I don't think it's all fenced in.
How old is the building that you're gonna renovate?
100 years. How old is it, Jeff? Oh, maybe not that old?
It feels like it's 100 years.
It's been there a long time.
Would you like to make a closing statement, or are you fine, we can go either way, so.
I think I would think, and I understand concerns of, as far as children, taking care of the children. Part of the plan would be to have, I would have to do this for 5 children. I would have to have an adult watching them. So I would hope to have enough staff or family that, oh God, no kid would wander away. Even my grandchildren don't wander. They come in, and there's a big ridge. But I get it, they can. They would have to go over the ridge and through a ravine, but.
She could put a fence around it, like the schools do.
Hold on, unless you come up to the podium.
Yeah, so,
All right.
that's it.
Have you done a study then to see the need for this?
No, I haven't. We've done research on other places who have done it very successfully. Our goal is, this is not a moneymaker. Because I'm an educator, my daughters are, I'm really blessed to have this place. My husband worked really hard. And now I think it's just something I'd like to do with it.
Can you be any branch of like 4-H or something like that? Or
Pardon me?
could you hook up with 4-H kids and?
Sure, and even I've talked to a church, and they'd be interested in.
These are a lot of things that would be good for 4-H to teach kids.
That's a good point.
And like at the state level, things that they go on and
Right.
learn and do things for, it'd be great.
And as I said, I talked to the Boys and Girls Club. They're sort of interested, but they were.
I was wondering if you're focusing on trying to get city kids out to.
Correct.
Outside into, a farm and learning about farming.
Right.
Self-sufficiency, things like that.
And we're not interested in starting a camp, where, the purpose of this is to have children come out who otherwise don't know about growing vegetables or have never had that experience.
I know there's a big need for that. I used to teach, and one of the teachers there took a group of kids that were immigrants, and we make big gardens, and they take them. It was a big interest for them, and they would help. And I had stuff that I helped them with, just plants, but not food. And they were very interested in it, and the kids were very eager to learn it.
All right, thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask for a motion to close the public hearing.
Also move to close the hearing.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Ask for staff's recommendation.
Just a second. You second. Okay. So, to add just a little bit to the perspective before the staff recommendation on this piece of it, what this property would be conducting out there, we do actually have a facility similar to it in Pottawattamie County. It is actually right adjacent just south of Hitchcock. And there was a lady out there, and she runs a group home for young girls, and she takes them out there and teaches them how to grow vegetables and do those things. And there is a need for it. There was a study conducted. It was conducted through the Sherwood Foundation, Iowa West, and what came out of it was the Share Our Table program. The Share Our Table program is a big needs-based thing on just food around the county over and all, and in the metro area. It kind of shows where some of the food deserts are. And you wouldn't think in the area that we live in that you would consider there being food deserts, but there actually are those places where you can't get healthy food to eat, and people don't know how to grow their own vegetables, and they do wind up shopping at Casey's for their regular grocery store. And so this is kind of falls in line with some of the goals of what they have of that study and that they're pursuing. You know, they've opened the Kitchen Council. The Kitchen Council is a place where people can go in, young entrepreneurs, I believe, if, you know, they make pies for sale, and they have access to a large commercial kitchen to do these things in. And there's a couple of different groups that utilize that facility for farmers markets and things. And so I think the need part of it has definitely been covered, and I think you're only seeing it grow. And there is a big organic movement that's been happening in the Crescent area. We've seen it with the Stanley Snack Shack that is also up there, the Omex property, the goat milk and cheese that they do, and along with their the Stanley Snack Shack where they get organic beef and vegetables and everything else, and they cook it up for those people that are kind of on the ride. And it does add to the county. I think it kind of benefits us if we want to grow and be able to do those things. Now, some of the concerns, I don't want to downplay any of the concerns that they brought up, of course, with traffic and things. We are seeing more traffic on all of our roads, and it's because, you know, we're growing, we're seeing more things, and as you do develop more, you will see more traffic increasing. And what we have to do with that on the county side of it is really focus on our road improvement plan and work with the county engineer's office to make sure that we're getting the right types of road in the right types of area, and with law enforcement as well. With the people being around and the parts about, you know, with the children kind of being out there and potentially wandering off, you know, I have those concerns as well when I'm at my property. And my neighbors have big parties almost every weekend, it seems like, and there's kids running all through their property, which runs right adjacent to mine, on their, you know, motorcycles and four-wheelers and everything else that they're doing alongside the shooting that's going on. And it can feel a little overwhelming at times, but I mean, those concerns are there, and I think that having a structured piece like this would actually ease my mind a little bit, because it is a more structured environment for them to be in and out, rather than a rowdy party where people are out and about doing those things. But I understand those concerns fully as well. And they can, you know, potentially look at some fencing options to help better separate some boundaries and those parts to help mitigate some of those risks. And that can kind of be a neighborly thing where they come together and look at, you know, utilizing what the Iowa fence code is, and kind of come together in the middle of their property lines and go on each side to, the adage is, you know, good fences make good neighbors, and it just kind of helps those things out. But based on what we have so far, and with our experiences of what we've had with some of these other facilities in the past, the recommendation from the planning department, it would be to approve the application subject to the following conditions. Number one would be the applicant shall obtain the necessary commercial building permits to renovate the building in accordance with Pottawattamie County building codes. Number two is that the well servicing the property will be utilized by the public. It must be approved by the Iowa Department of Natural Resources as a public water well. The septic system shall be installed to the Pottawattamie County Code and size to handle present and future capacity. The parking lot shall be constructed in accordance with Pottawattamie County codes, in addition to providing the necessary ADA hard surface parking spaces. Signage shall be limited to what is allowable under Pottawattamie County Code. The driveway for this conditional use shall comply with Section 503 of the International Fire Code. Number 7 is that the site shall be inspected and a certificate of occupancy shall be issued prior to commencement of the activities. Based on the following findings of fact. The subject property is located in the A4 Los Hills zoning district. The county zoning ordinance, which is adopted in conjunction with the land use plan, stipulates that the proposed land use is a permitted conditional use in the A4 district. The subject property is located in an area that is primarily utilized for agricultural and residential. This conditional use is not foreseen to have a negative impact on the area properties. The existing road system is not foreseen to be impacted. The aforementioned conditions will minimize any potential adverse impact on the adjoining properties.
Okay, this time I guess I'd ask for staff members to do discussion on that, or what do you guys, want to do that, or?
I would make a motion to approve based on staff recommendation.
Okay. Get a second on that?
I would second.
It's been moved in second. All in favor, say aye. Roll call vote.
Sorry. Pierce,
Yes.
Leaders,
Yes.
Herder,
Yeah.
General.
Yes. State to the applicant that their conditional use has been approved.
Thank you.
And I guess ask Matt if there's any other business on tonight, or is,
No other business for the board.
at that time, I'd ask for a motion to adjourn. Been moved in second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.